Yeah, so I just would like to welcome everyone for today's session. We're going to have a very interesting session today. We have one of the, you know, very informed persons who has been into hypnotherapy, sound healing, shamanic healing, etc. Peter Blum will be presenting to us, and we have him for approximately about an hour. So before we get into that presentation, I would like to just give you a brief overview of what is IACT, what we do, and then I will hand it over to Dr. Sunil Prakash, who is the chairperson of IACT, and he will give you a few words, and then we'll take it over for the presentation. So IACT is an international association for counselors and therapists. This is basically an organization which has been set up. It has been set up in the 1980s. That means this organization is about approximately about 45 years old, and it has got roots in different countries. It's got chapters in different countries, US, Europe, different countries. We have brought it into India very recently. We started it about 3 to 4 months back, and we want to bring a chapter of IACT. So what is IACT? International Association of Counselors and Therapists. This is an association where we're trying to bring in different holistic modality practitioners under the same umbrella for information sharing and various other things. So we have set up a website. You can come over there and register yourself. We have different social media handles. We have information sharing sessions just like what we are having today, where we bring in acclaimed experts to give a talk on different subjects. And that's the whole purpose of this. So I would like to invite Dr. Sunil, who is the chairperson and the founder of IACT India chapter, to maybe give a few words, and then we will go on to the actual presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jana. This is our fourth meeting we are having, and we will be continuing like this every month, where we are going to invite celebrities and good people from different modalities. The purpose is to learn about different modalities, how they are working, and what they are contributing to the society. And secondly, how can that modality can be complemented with the modality you are working with. I'm not taking much. My only interaction with Peter was in Daytona Beach when I went for the first time for MDHA conference. You remember, Peter?
Remind me.
There I attended your evening, night session, and the only problem which I pointed out to you the next day was that you had made a very big effort to understand and recite Gayatri Mantra.
Gayatri Mantra. You corrected me on Gayatri Mantra.
The next day I just corrected because I want you to recite it in the right perspective. Then only you are going to get benefit of it.
Yes, I do remember.
And that was my first interaction with you. And this is what I wanted to tell you people, here, all the participants, that it was a great session I attended of Peter. And from that day, I became his fan. And I meet him in 2 or 3 already conferences. We have already met, interacted. And now to Jairam, please introduce him formally, and then we start our further deliberations.
So I would like to introduce Peter Blum. I'll just give a little bit of read through, but I won't take too much of time because I would rather let Peter tell about his experiences. But Peter has been 35 plus years of experience. He's a practicing Ericksonian hypnotist. He was an Instructor of the Year in the National Guild of Hypnosis, Order of Braid Lifetime Achievement, Hypnotist of the Year, IACT 2015, Life Fellow in Hypnotherapy, IMDHA, which is the International Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Association, inducted into Hypnosis Hall of Fame, pioneer in shamanic sound healing, conducted sound bath, personal sound healing sessions, and sonic therapy trainings across USA, Mexico, Canada, France, and the Caribbean. released 8 albums featuring healing meditative songs between 1999 and 2020. Author of TranceSonics, that's the #1 book. The recent book which was released in September 2024 is called What is Your BS? Exploring Belief Systems through Hypnosis and NLP. It's available on Amazon. You can go check out. So you can see that from the extensive experience, we are going to have a deep dive into knowledge. I don't want to, take too much time in giving introduction and all that. I would rather let Peter speak about, and let him enlighten us. Thank you, Peter. Over to you.
Okay. So I would say good day to everyone, all my friends that I have not met yet, and I look forward to sharing my life of exploration into where these two disciplines overlap. I'm been very much affected by growing up in America in the 60s and 70s. Although I have never been to India, I've been very much affected by the Indian culture and arts and spirituality. There was a huge wave of it that came through America and Europe in the 60s, 70s, and continues to. So it's delightful for me to have the opportunity to share this with you folks over there. And it's not too late. I hope at some point I might still get over there to visit you. So having said that, my introduction into the world of sound began very, very early because I was born into a musical family. I'll say more about that later, but I followed the path of sound and music for the first 20, 30 years of my life, exploring different types of music and sound. I did not know, and I'm guessing that most, if not all, of the people who are tuning into this have some familiarity with or are trained already in hypnosis. So that, yeah, so let's take that as the foundation. I don't know how many of you have experience with using sound, but I know that everyone out there has been affected by music at some point in their life, whether it was a lullaby that your mom sang to you as a little infant, or popular music that you heard growing up, or whatever it is. People often say, as a couple, "Oh, there's our favorite song." And it evokes immediate associations and emotions. So, sound and music, very, very powerful. What I did not know about, even though I was involved in different types of yoga and meditation in the 60s and 70s, I did not know about the field of hypnosis until the early to mid 80s. And so, in that sense, I guess I am an elder of the community because I have been working with for 40 years, starting in around 84, 85. So that's a long time. As I go along, you will hopefully get a sense of my strange sense of humor when I say that I should have gotten this stuff by now. I should have a really thorough understanding of it, but I feel like I'm still always just learning something new, which is good. In the Zen tradition, Suzuki Roshi wrote a wonderful book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, in which he says, in the expert's mind, there's no room for learning because they feel they know everything. In the beginner's mind, there's a lot of room for learning. So it's always good, no matter how long we've been involved in the pursuit of any discipline, to keep, and I do try to keep a beginner's mind. So in 1984, I was working as a journalist, and just, in terms of a little background, how I entered the field. And I was writing a series of articles on alternative forms of healing, things that were still considered fringe. They were not mainstream yet. Things like acupuncture and shiatsu. And a friend of mine moved back from California. He had been living out there, and he called me up and he said, I think you should include me and what I do in your series of articles. And I said to him, okay, Richard, what are you doing? And he said, Ericksonian hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming. And I had never heard of either of them. So what I was doing at that point was research for an article. Before I would write about a practitioner in a modality, I would go and experience it, which had nice benefits. I got to experience being Rolfed and experiencing acupuncture and chiropractic, and then I went over to Richard's office and I had a session in hypnosis with him. And I was delighted. It was a wonderful experience. Richard strongly believed that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. Now, there are arguments that can be made on either side of that. But to prove his point, and he was very involved with technology, and to prove his point, he put me in a chair that had a reclining chair with a massage roller that went up and down your back, and a thing that vibrated one's calves as you're laying back. And then in the around the head, there were speakers, and he put a cassette tape in with something called a double induction, which was two different voices telling two hypnotic stories at the same time, either alternating or both speaking at the same time. I later found out this was all part of what's called an overload technique, which is a standard way of inducing trance, one of the standard induction techniques. And then also he put on an early version of a brainwave machine with goggles and headphones. So I had my eyes closed and saw blinking LEDs in the alpha and theta range and heard pulsed sound in my ears synchronized with that. And then he left the room. And he was gone for about 20 minutes. And he came back, and I was in a delightful state. I was, very, very dreamy and relaxed and mildly disoriented, but although I knew exactly where I was and who I was. And those of you who have experienced hypnosis probably recognize what I'm talking about. And I said, that was great, but it really wasn't totally dissimilar from other things I've experienced, either with the use of psychedelic, psychoactive compounds or in deep states of meditation. And Richard went, exactly. And I said, and you didn't do anything. And he said, exactly. So that was his way of kind of showing, like, you just get the person set up, you create the right conditions, you encourage them, you build an expectation, and then the rest is basically them cooperating. So that was my introduction to it. I wrote the article. I continued working as a journalist for another year or two, and then I reached a point where I needed to change careers, and I always used to say to people, I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up. And there I was in my late 30s, and I needed to make a change, but I didn't know what to do. And Richard, very kindly, we were talking, he was a friend, and he said, well, why don't you do what I do? I'll offer to train you in it, and I think you'd be good at it. And I said, okay, why is that? He said, because your mind already works that way. The unconscious is the domain of puns and double entendres, and so I see someone has raised their hand. Okay. Does anyone need to say something now? You can unmute yourself, or maybe you can't. Hold on to it, whatever it is that you raised your hand for, and wait until afterwards. So otherwise, I will in danger of losing my train of thought. So, uh, Richard encouraged me to do this, and he trained me. And I was very, 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 very fortunate because I've trained many people as an instructor. I I became certified through the National Guild of Hypnotists in, I think, 1986. So it's almost 40 years. And then about 6 years later, I became certified as an instructor. So I have trained and certified many, many people, hundreds of people over the years, and it's always a question of how does one pass along one's understanding that has been a lifetime or decades or at least years in accumulating and refining in a relatively short period of time. It is a challenge, but I was very fortunate because I had unusual circumstances. Richard not only offered to train me, but he hired me. He said, "Why don't you come in, and I need someone to manage my office." And so I was there 5 days a week, 8 hours a day in that field, just sort of immersed in it. And he would come in and we would talk about and discuss various concepts. And Richard had been trained by John Grinder, one of the founders of neurolinguistic programming. So he was very close to the source, and he was a brilliant teacher and practitioner. So I spent a couple of years, and then I would work and see people in the same office. And sometimes he would say, "I'm going to sit in the corner and observe. Just check and make sure if it's all right with your client, your patient." And if it is, and so this is an unusual situation. Very, very fortunate to have had that. So going along, I'm working in these two areas, and now I think would be a good time for me to share my screen, having given you some background. I know these things seem like a long time. They say, "Oh, you have 45 minutes, an hour." I know that I will reach, it'll be 5 minutes left, and I'll be thinking, "Oh, there's so many things I wanted to say that I haven't gotten to yet." So without further ado here, I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Good. And so here is, yeah, cool. This is what I was hoping to get, and everyone can see that, correct? Yeah. I know you're
We
all
can see you,
muted.
Peter. We can
Yeah,
see you.
you can see.
Yes, we
Okay,
can see. Yes, we
very
can
good,
see.
very good. So here it is. There's the presentation title. It's supposed to say TranceSonics here, but it says presentation title. Okay, the vital link between sound healing and hypnosis. So now let's play this and see how it works. Yeah. Okay. So, and I watched, I did tune in to the presenters a month ago, and I was thinking, oh, I love all the information that is given in the PowerPoint, but I want to be not overloading with too much information. I'd rather deliver it to you verbally and just sort of summarize here on the PowerPoint. It's a very hip thing to do now, to have extensive PowerPoints, and I know it's part of what people expect. As long as I can remember, music had the power to powerfully affect my state of consciousness. Fortunate enough to incarnate in a family where the arts were cherished. Father was an operatic baritone and sang professionally. I often witnessed my mother and father enjoying singing together. There was a piano in the house, and I was encouraged to follow the muse. Since learning what I call the spiritual art form of hypnosis, and I do emphasize that when I train people, that for me, it is not a formulaic, yes, we're being trained in a clinical procedure, but for me personally, it's very important that these two aspects are included in my approach, that it is spiritual and it is an art form. Now, we can discuss that further if people have other points of view. I've been fascinated by where and how these two fields overlap. When I examined what was the connecting thread between so many of the types of music I was drawn to and studied and played, including African drumming, Tuvan or Mongolian throat singing, North Indian classical music on sitar, I understood they all led to trance states. You know, I was thinking, what is it? What is the unifying factor? Uh, I like many different kinds of music, but the music from around the world and the sounds I was particularly fascinated with when I learned to view things through the spectacles of hypnosis. I said, aha, maybe these cultures did not use the word hypnosis or the word trance, but in fact, this is what the effect was, that people who listened or played these musics went into an altered state. All right, here we go. And I thought I would summarize here. This is, you could make up your own list, but I was just thinking as I was preparing this, what are the tools of the hypnotist? The mind, body, and the voice, right? Body, speech, mind. That's who we are. The words we say, our actions, and our thoughts and feelings. So in the mind, the tool is knowledge, techniques, and imagination. The body is posture, gesture, facial expressions, very, very important, very important. And the voice, rhythm, tone, pitch, timbre, volume, speed of delivery, use of silence. There is a widely quoted statistic that I have never confirmed that says human communication is 55% nonverbal, 38% rhythm, pitch, tone, volume, and 7% the words that we use. So even though we think of ourselves as a language-using species, in fact, so much more is communicated by the clothing that we're wearing, by the way we do our hair, by whether we're using our hands a lot to gesture, do we raise our eyebrows? These are all part of this, the big spectrum of communication. Tools of a sound healer, again, same, mind, knowledge, techniques, imagination. Body, visual, a beauty of the array of the instruments. Grace of movement. I've been studying Tai Chi now for quite a while. And during a sound presentation, I know many people in a large sound concert, sound healing meditation concert will have their eyes closed. Nonetheless, there may be some people who are watching, and I will often, as I'm getting up and moving around people, be thinking of embodying the principles of movement of Tai Chi. How is the Chi moving through my body? How is it moving from my mind, from conceptualization through my voice and my hands, through the instruments and out to the people? And then, of course, there's the sounds. And again, we can break it down to rhythm, timbre, with a variety of instruments, pitch, key, frequency, duration. Okay, moving right along. Here's a few pictures from different situations that I've been in. The picture of me standing with the gong and the bowls was at one of those sound healing meditation events that I had mentioned, which I've been doing for many, many, many years. People enjoy them. When I first started, nobody knew what the heck I was talking about. I mean, friends and family said, I don't get it. What do you mean you go around and bang on metal bowls? And I said, yes, and people enjoy it. But now they're very much more popular. The upper picture is on a celebration outdoors of people walking a labyrinth, and I am playing a drum for them to make a rhythmical pattern for them to follow as background as they are doing this. This is another method of centering and entering into a liminal state by walking a labyrinth. And the bottom picture is a demonstration of tuning forks, which I will show after I finish this. I use tuning forks. I recommend them. They are easy to learn and inexpensive and non-threatening. Because for people who may not know, and they come, and my first teacher, Richard, used to insist I came into his office as a member of the hippie movement, and he dressed in three-piece suit, and he said, if you want to train with me, you need to cut your hair and wear a shirt and tie. So he was very convinced that hypnosis is often viewed with suspicion as a kind of a fringe practice amongst, maybe less so now, but 40, 50 years ago, people immediately said, are you going to make me bark like a dog or quack like a duck or do weird things? And that's still the stereotype that many people have in their mind. And so um, less so now, and I've dropped the dress code. But in terms of introducing unusual instruments, um, tuning forks are pretty acceptable. They're non-threatening. Oh, it's tuning forks. Okay, so that's there. Let's see. What is sound healing? What is healing? I thought it would be useful to raise some questions here. Is all healing self-healing? If so, what is the healer's job? And whether one is doing Marma Ayurvedic healing or homeopathic healing or massage or talk therapy, CBT, DBT, hypnosis, what is our job if in fact one of my friends says our job is to awaken the inner physician within our clients. So coach, nurturer, supporter, magician, like the wizard in The Wizard of Oz who said, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, because he really wasn't doing any magic. His whole point, and The Wizard of Oz is a wonderful metaphor for helping people discover their inner resources, that they come to us as hypnotists, as sound healers, as whatever, thinking we will have a magic wand. That's what their hope is, that we will do this for them. And I actually do have a magic wand that I got in a toy store, which is a useful prop. But realistically, I know, or I believe, that the healing comes from within, and so I can provide a safe container for self-healing to take place. And ending with this statement that the hypnotist's most powerful tool is suggestion, or the placebo effect. So, boing. What is sound healing? What is healing? I think it's useful to raise these questions. I'm providing some answers drawn from my thoughts and experience, but they're not conclusive. These are just my thoughts. Okay, here's a very quick, and if people are interested in this, please contact me. I will be happy. I know this is being recorded, but if you want a PDF of this particular sheet that I give out when I teach my classes, Hypnotic Principles in Sound Healing, it's a useful summary. F is for fixation of attention, a basic tenet for transduction, unusual sounds, repeated rhythmic sounds, sustained tones. The A, and it's a useful mnemonic. People remember FAC, face. A is for anchoring, repeated association on an unconscious level of particular music and or sounds with a desired state, relaxation, insight, motivation, etc. C is for confusion. Those of you who are familiar with Ericksonian approaches know that Milton Erickson was a brilliant innovator, and one of his most frequently used and favorite induction techniques was confusion. Amazement, bewilderment, confusion, any strange, mysterious, or confounding sound can be combined with words. E is for entrainment, a very important principle to influence a person's heart rate, breath, or brainwave frequency by playing music with those beat frequencies. Along with face, I would also include the 3 S's, which stand for situation, setup, and suggestion. All the sounds that are utilized in sound healing are potentiated by creating the right situation, setting up good expectations, the use of verbal suggestions to create expectation of the desired outcome. Let your work be driven by curiosity and the desire to be of service. Oh, and don't forget, have fun. Here I am doing a little presentation for a group of people in a yoga studio, and you can see there's some laughter going on there. I believe that's a very important component of healing that a dear friend, Michael Elner, who's passed on, and I used to do a workshop called Hypnosis, Healing, and Humor. And many of our patients suffer from the disease of seriosity, and we need to introduce some humor into their life, some comic relief. The hypnotic or trance state can be described as involving the focusing of attention inward. The hypnotic state can be described as when the brain produces more alpha theta brain waves. The hypnotic state can be described as anything that allows an individual to access more of the full potential of their unconscious mind. Important to differentiate between active and passive trance states. I play tennis. I play my best tennis when I'm in a light trance. That's an active trance state. I believe in the model of co-trance. When I am working with my clients, I allow myself to enter trance with them. Just a note on wording. For many years, I have been avoiding and discouraging the use of the phrase, what people say, are you going to put me under now? And I don't like that phrase. I say, no, I'm not a mortician or an undertaker. We will enter trance. We will go into trance together. So, and Dr. Erickson, very, very simple, a pleasant temporary interruption of habitual patterns in order for creative solutions to take place. You can't get much, that's a pretty delightful, simple one. Moving right along, a quote from the famous avant-garde composer John Cage. There are two principal parts of each personality, the conscious mind and the unconscious. These are split and dispersed in most of us in countless ways and directions. The function of music, like that of any other healthy occupation, is to help bring those separate parts back together again. Music does this by providing a moment when awareness of time and space being lost, the multiplicity of elements which make up an individual become integrated, and he is one. That's a pretty hefty statement. Okay. What instruments typically does a sound healer work with? Singing bowls, metal, Himalayan crystal, tuning forks, gongs, drums, rattles, tom-tom, frame, hoop drum, flutes, ocarinas, voice, strings, guitar, sitar, violin, cello, drones, shruti box, tambura, zither, or manolina. I'm zipping through this because, again, I'm aware of the passage of time. And here is a picture of me standing in front of a lovely rainbow, I don't know, sculpture there near where I live. And there's my website and my Instagram, my Facebook. So if you wish to, and I'm going to end this now by closing this. I put my website into the chat room. So if people want to find me, that's the way to do that. And now I put that away. Okay. Now, let me just end screen share here for a second and come back to you.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. This is Jairam here.
Am I out of time? Am I out of time?
No, you're perfectly on time. We still need more time from you to answer the questions. I have a ton of questions, okay? But before I ask my ton of questions, I'll rather let the participants ask a ton of questions. We may take another 15-20 minutes max, and then we'll end the session. I hope that's okay with you.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
We may take another 15 to 20 minutes time.
For me?
So take all the, yeah.
Oh, great. Very good. Yep. All right. So I was not sure about the Zoom audio interface. We checked it. It seems to be fine. So I will just now show a few of the instruments that I work with.
Yeah.
Here's a variety of bowls. Many of these come from India, or they were originally called Tibetan singing bowls, which is not correct. That's a misnomer. Some may have come, but many came from Nepal and Bhutan, and they're not exclusively from Tibet. And they've become pretty widespread, and for a while you could only get old ones. Now they started making them again. You can get new ones. So this is a small bowl. They can be struck like that, or they can be gone around the outside to make them sing like that. This is a larger bowl, which has a more resonant tone. Again, it can be struck with a mallet, like this. Or with a felt hard stick like this, which gives more of a percussive sound. And if you listen closely, you hear there are wave trains in the sound. There's like a wah, 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 wah. And good bowls will produce 3 or 4 different tones. Now I'm going around to show you how beautifully this one sings. And you can hear them wah, wah, wah. So I believe that either probably unintentionally, that these were created. And I've tried to do research and said to Tibetans, what's the history of these? And they've said, oh, they're made to hold rice, and you give one as a wedding present, and it sits on the mantle. But I think that there was something more going on. So it's whatever the creation and the meaning and purpose of them originally is lost in antiquity. But this is a large and particularly beautiful singing bowl. And one of the ways I judge the quality of a bowl is by the purity of tone and also the duration, how long it lasts. So this particular bowl has a lovely tone when struck. And also
The resonance.
Now this will go, I'm going to mute it because this will go for 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it's a really extraordinary bowl. So
Peter, just a question. Why do you go only for copper bowls instead of crystal bowls?
It's a question of aesthetic taste. I know many people use the glass bowls, the crystal bowls. They are very relatively recent. They were actually a byproduct of Silicon Valley that somebody discovered, a warehouse of them out in California, and found that they make these lovely sounds. But they're very pure. And the sound of it I like, but it's a question of aesthetics and preference. I like the feeling of the element of metal. There are some people who relate very well to crystals. They surround themselves. They do crystal healing. They wear crystals. I'm not that person. I like metal. So I have metal tuning forks, metal gongs, metal singing bowls. I always have, and I work in conjunction with people. We do joint presentations where there are 3 or 4 of us, and somebody may be playing the crystal bowls. That's fine. I don't object to them. I just a personal preference. Okay, is that a good answer? Okay,
perfect.
All right.
I would like you to bring in the questions which has come from our participants. You can take it to Peter. Maybe another 5 to 10 minutes of Q&A, and then we can wrap it up. Bhavya, are there any questions from participants?
Yeah, it was an amazing session, and we do have a couple of questions. The first question is from Rosaline. and they are asking that what is the significance of 432 hearts and 552 hearts?
Well, I was afraid someone would ask that. There's a lot of controversy around this and different theories about it. And I am not convinced that there's science behind this. I've talked to a lot of people in the field of sound healing who make the argument for the 432 as opposed to 440. And I have challenged all of them. If I play you a note and I don't tell you whether it's 432 or 440, will you be able to tell the difference? And will you be able to say, oh, this one feels good and this one doesn't? I doubt it. So I think it's more of a belief system that many people have bought into. And again, I'm all about belief systems. I wrote this book called What is Your BS? And so we choose a belief system and then you follow it. I have a friend named Thomas Orr Anderson. Now so this whole field I call frequencyism. And it's become more and more popular that people say, oh, I have this tuning fork and it's 528. It's a DNA fork. What do you think? I'm like, I don't know. If you believe it works, maybe it will. Because it's more about believing it than the actual effect of the vibration. There's been very little research on the actual effect of specific frequencies. Now, I understand entrainment. I understand the alpha theta brainwaves that they are subject to, they will match up with the sound that's presented to them. That has been shown, it's proven. I went and spent 20 sessions with a friend who has a neurofeedback lab, and she hooked me up with electrodes, and I brought my drum and I brought my tuning forks and I chanted, and we were measuring what's going on in your brain. So this is verifiable. But a lot of the other theories, correlation of sound with a particular chakra, that's very popular. People say, do you have a C or a D bowl? Because I need a heart chakra bowl. I'm like, who told you that? Where did you hear that? Well, I saw YouTube. I heard somebody give it. It's not founded in reality. I have a friend, Thomas Orr Anderson, who is an acoustic engineer and a sound healer. And he did an extensive double-blind test of people playing them a note, and asking them which chakra they thought it was in. The effects were totally random. There was no correlation. And then he told them, well, D is the heart and F is the... And then, of course, they were like, yes, that's correct. So a lot of this is suggestion. And as hypnotists, we're allowed to make suggestions. That's the business we're in, the business of making suggestions. So again, Duke Ellington, who was a wonderful musician, he said, if it sounds good about music, if it sounds good, it is good. So follow, if it feels good, then trust that. It probably is good for you.
Right. That's great. Another question which I have from my own side.
Yes.
I would like to know that for someone new to sound healing, what is the simplest way that we can integrate sound healing with our clinical practice as a hypnotherapist?
Yeah. That's a wonderful question. And I always encourage people to start with the voice. The voice is the first instrument. So you people over there in India, you know about mantra and the power of sound, right? So I would say to somebody, listen, if it's all right with you, I'm going to lead you through chanting of the seed sound of Om. Right? And just relax the body, relax the muscles, let the breath flow freely, drop your shoulders, soften your gaze, and and if you want to go into a little bit more detail, you can say this represents the cycle of creation, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, that is creation, sustaining, destruction, and breath is central, and voice the great Sufi mystic Hazrat Inayat Khan, who was very influential on me. I never met him, but I read his works. He died before I could meet him. But he wrote the Sufi message, and he said, voice is breath made audible. So if the breath is the center rhythm of all of it we're doing, then pay attention to the voice, use the voice. After that, I would say the tuning forks are a good starting place. This is called a basic perfect fifth, a C and a G. And you saw in one of the pictures I was demonstrating on someone, you tap these gently on your knees, and then you hold them up. It's hard, very faint sound. But if you hold them next to the ears, it can be heard clearly. Again, my friend and mentor in the world of tuning forks is a man named John Beaulieu. I recommend his books as well. Human Tuning is his first book, and in the back of it is a actual science publication from MedPub, an abstract with doctors' names on the down-regulating of stress using sound. That they showed that when people listen to this particular interval, and you don't have to be a musician, you just get these forks and tap them and hold them next to you. And that when people hear this interval of a fifth, it's a C and a G, there's a spike in the production of nitric oxide, which is one of the good chemicals that the body produces naturally, and it helps us regulate stress. So there's a very basic tool that somebody can use. Another one that's easy is a rattle. Rattle creates a certain mood. Again, there's an air of mystery and that you're creating a ritual. And John Grinder, one of the chapters in this book is Hypnosis as Ritual. And John Grinder said, in order to make effective change, you need a ritual and to be congruent. And being congruent is a phrase that's often used in neuro-linguistic programming. It means that you're totally believable, that your words, your expression, everything lines up so that if I say it, somebody is going to tend to believe me. So if we're in the business of making a suggestion and I say, I'm going to create this field around you, I'm going to clear your field, I'm going to cleanse your field, and I often will do this with incense or with sage to cleanse the field, and it's a ritual. And then I'll say, I'm going to clear your field further by this rattle. And they go, oh, far out. Okay, good. So that's an easy tool to use. Again, I have this big drum, which is a frame drum here. And again, I encourage people who are getting involved with the field who are intimidated because they say, I have no musical training. I'm not telling you to play a tuba or a cello. I'm saying this is a drum. Any 5-year-old can do this. That creates a mood, and it creates, you're setting the stage sonically for some transformation to happen. There are specific applications I've written about in my book, TranceSonics, this book. All of my recordings, I have 8 recordings, and this book are all available on my website for download. People can download electronically. In this book, I talk about a specific application that was developed in ancient cultures of medicine people called shamanic journeying. Some of you may be familiar with that, where they use the regular rhythmic beating of the drum to guide someone into a state where they contact their guides, where they get information. Right, what is it we are aiming to do in hypnosis is to access resources and information that are held at an unconscious level that are not normally available to the conscious mind. Right? So, however you do that, you can take somebody out and sit them down on a hill and say, watch the sunset. And as the sun sets, let yourself enter into that state of the twilight zone. You know, that's a joke because there was a TV series in the 50s and 60s called The Twilight Zone. But really, that is what we're talking about, that liminal state in between waking and sleeping. A lot of people, I have to clear up that misconception. They think hypnosis is sleeping.
Mm.
It's not. Sleeping is sleeping. Any other questions?
Right.
Bhavya, can I
Yeah.
just know here because the very basic question I would like to ask.
Yes.
This is Peter. Typically, what hypnotherapist when a client comes in and you have the intake and then you have the induction. But
Yes.
the problem, what happens during the induction is where the client has to let go and get into that meditative state and then start
Yes.
accessing the subconscious. And they have this normal fears, etc. There's a person, unknown person, I'm letting myself into, etc. Have you found
Yes.
it effective where you have done some kind of sound therapy before leading the person into a hypnotic induction? It can be binaural beats or it can be some gong therapy, etc., where it makes the person or the client more susceptible to going into the subconscious state where we can take them
All right.
into hypnotherapy.
Okay, I think I understand your question.
Yeah.
I always do a 2-hour session for my first session.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because all effective therapy and communication is based on trust and rapport. So the first thing, I might spend an hour and a half just talking to the person and mirroring them and finding out their preferred representational system. And if they're an auditory person, yes, there's a much greater chance that they would be very amenable to sound. I do not always incorporate sound specifically in every hypnosis session I do. I mean, other than my voice. It's there, and I use it for some of my clients. I have on my intake form, which is 2 pages and a lot of questions that people go, wow, this is the most interesting intake form I've ever filled out. You know, because I ask them, do you pray? Do you meditate? Have you had visionary experiences? They're like, nobody's ever asked me these questions. Well, this is part of who you are, and I want to establish a base level so I know, because I don't do cookie cutter work. I design every session for every client individually. And some people walk in and you see my office here, I've got, gongs hanging up and bells behind me and drums all around, and people will look around and say, do you use those? And I'm following their interests. I'm like, I could. Would you be interested? Yes. Okay. So that you have to, like they say in entertainment, you got to read the room, right?
Right.
You have to know who your client is and what's going to work for them. Is that an answer?
Yeah. See, what I've seen is a typical off the street kind of clients who come in. They're already in a high beta stage. They're just coming from their daily day-to-day
Right.
work,
Right.
and they are in a high beta, and
Right.
they're just into that scene. Now, we start speaking to them and say, okay, this is what it is, and they are amenable for that. However, they're not able to get down from that high beta stage, and we need to get them into a lower stage.
All right. So one of
Just the typical relaxation therapy is, okay, relax your muscles and think about it, might not work with them.
it
So
might
I was
not.
thinking, yeah, exactly. So I
It
was
might not.
thinking,
I
yeah.
didn't, it's up on my shelf. I don't have it. Let me just step away from the screen for 1 second, and I will show you something. Yeah. I did not pull this down off my shelf because I had so many things but this is a set of 5 tuning forks that is called the brain tuners. And this I use to entrain the person's brain, because I present to them in succession two forks that the difference tone between them starts in beta, right?
Right.
If you're not all familiar with the concept of pacing and leading,
Yeah.
pacing means to match the person where they are. Leading is where do you want to take them. So I start by pacing, assuming they're in beta state. They walked in, their brain is going fast, they're thinking a lot, right? Maybe anxiety, maybe just anticipation, I don't know. But there's a lot of thoughts. They're in uptime, they're in beta. So I start with beta. And I explain to them what I'm doing as I doing it. I say, your brain will respond. Your brain will automatically, you don't have to think or believe anything. So that's a relief. Oh, okay, this is automatic, right? It's like you don't have to think or believe when you go for acupuncture. Your body will respond. So same thing, the sound, your body, and then I ramp them down into alpha. And I say, so beta is 12 to 25 cycles per second. Next is alpha, 8 to 12 cycles per second. This is the daydreamy, light trance, early stages of meditation. And as I'm doing it, I'm also slowing down my delivery
Right.
and my own breathing. So
You're
I'm
pacing them.
modeling this, right? And then
Yes.
I go into theta, and I explain to them what that is, and that's 4 to 7 cycles per second, and that's the hypnagogic state. So that is one way of bypassing conscious resistance. I also discourage my hypnosis students from expecting problems. I say, just assume somebody's paying you a lot of money. They're going to want to go into trance, right? They're paying you to do this. So, just say, people have questions. They come in, they say, I don't know if I'm capable of being hypnotized. And I will match them right away and say, so as Erickson would often do, you just repeat it back to them. So you don't know if you're capable of being hypnotized. You're not challenging it. You're showing them that you're paying attention, and what is it that you expect to see, hear, or feel in the hypnotic state? That's information I ask on my form, because then I can tailor it. They say, I expect to hear your voice sound very distant and whispery. And so when I'm talking to them, I'll make my voice very whispered. Or I expect to be very dark. I'll say, okay, I'll put a blindfold on you. Whatever it is that they are looking for, let them set the pace, right? That they will guide you. Yes, I believe everyone is capable of a hypnotic state, that people all go in and out of hypnotic states every day. Yes, there are people who are control freaks, right? They're very scared of letting go of control. And I will say to them, well, the reason you're here is because your life is already out of control. That's why you come to see me. So hypnosis is really about being more in control. So
Yep.
I've reframed it for them. I'm showing you a way that you can dictate your emotional, mental, spiritual state, rather than being a little billiard ball that's just being knocked around by a circumstance. I'm giving you a wonderful tool that you will be able to put yourself in trance at your will whenever you want. And maybe you'll use sound. I use pre-recorded sound a lot. I often have Baroque music playing in the background, which has
Right.
been shown in a lot of research to have a calming effect, the Mozart effect. So again, I probably wouldn't put on punk rock or Bollywood music.
It'll heighten their,
It's not. Yeah, it's too
Totally.
frenetic. You want something, but it could be classical. It could be whatever, chanting, soft drone sounds. Okay. Any other questions?
My final
Yes.
question. Hey, Bobby,
Yes,
my final
one
question.
more.
Since you're into tuning folks, Now, there's a lot of research which is coming into tuning forks and frequencies, especially with relation to different body parts. For
Yeah.
instance, the spine, when you
Yeah.
take it, there is different vertebrae, and now they identify the different vertebrae which resonates to different frequencies. Can be
Yeah.
528, 548, XYZ, which goes down. There's a lot of stuff coming out of there. What is your take on that? And
I
also,
don't
I would
know.
like
I
you
don't
to.
know anything. I don't know anything about that.
Okay. What about Schumann
Okay.
resonances? Schumann resonance? Schumann resonance?
Yeah, the Schumann resonance has been established. There's a lot of people talking about it on Facebook and telling us that it's off the charts because of the solar flares. I don't know how much of that is true or not. I know that the Earth has a 7.83 frequency
Yeah.
of the Schumann resonance. That's been established for a while. Is it changing? Is it changing dramatically? I don't know. I'm not a geophysicist. I don't know about these things. And
So
and
you basically use your tuning forks just for the sound in the ear and just to bring them down to.
well, yes, mostly I do. I also have weighted tuning forks that
Okay.
are placed on the body. Okay, to they have a weight up at the top and they're placed directly on the joints or muscles to break up crystallization and increase blood flow by direct contact. But again, it's not for me a precise science. It's more of an intuitive thing that is guided by the client. Someone else has their hand raised.
Rupali Singh. Bhavya, can you
Yes.
take Rupali Singh's question, please? You can unmute Rupali.
Hi, Peter. And hi, everyone. Sorry, I joined a little late. I hope I can get a recording.
Yes, it's being recorded.
Some issues with, yeah. I just want to thank you, Peter. It's an honor to see you in person. Thank you for sending me your book. I loved it. It set me up, and I keep referring to it quite a lot.
Oh, good.
TranceSonics. It was amazing. I think it's an amazing piece of work.
You were the person that
Yes,
ordered it, right?
yes.
Yes.
I just
Thank you so much.
I just cherish it,
Ah.
and meeting you here in person is just amazing. I just want to thank you for doing all the wonderful work you're doing. I'm
Oh,
also attending David's conference, which is also teaching us so much. I use sound with hypnosis. I think it just sets the tone for a lot of clients who are a little, scared of hypnosis. So initially, just some sound, and then
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I'm just too much in awe seeing you in person here. So
Well, it's
thank you.
not quite in person, but close.
Yeah, of course,
I
close.
said at the beginning of the meeting, I was saying, I've always had a great fondness and resonance with so much of the Indian culture, the food, and the Hindu pantheon and the music. And I studied, as you know from reading my book, I studied with a very great sitar maestro for
Yes.
3 years, Ustad Jamaluddin Bhartiya. And so this is my I think I'm pretty sure I spent some lifetimes there, but
Wow.
I have not been there yet in this one, but it's not too late. So if enough people there want me to come, I will be happy to come and teach
Amazing.
live in
Absolutely.
India. I'm just
Peter, we are
putting
all
it out
from
Just
there.
look forward to it.
we are
Yeah.
from different parts of India. We would definitely like you to come down. Whether you
Yeah.
want to come down as just exploring India or for a knowledge sharing, we can arrange
Yeah.
that. We'd be happy
Well,
to do that.
Yep.
my one of my spiritual teachers told me, go where you're invited. So I'm pushing it a little bit because I'm suggesting that I would like to be invited, but if I'm invited, I would certainly strongly consider how I could get over there and visit. I have many friends that have spent time in India. There's a place, I don't know if you all know about this, if you're interested in sound healing, called Auroville, which is the Sri
Pondicherry.
Aurobindo Center,
Yeah. Yes.
Pondicherry, and they
Yeah.
have a whole sound research laboratory there
Yes.
where they are
Yes.
creating sound chimes and tubular bells and amazing research going on
Yeah.
there. So, yeah.
And it's all well documented. They have just not gone to this thing. They have the research papers which they are putting out, etc. It's quite well documented.
Yeah.
Dr. Sunil, so it's up to you to invite Peter to India, and we'll be glad to host him. Dr. Sunil, please, we can sign off with you if we can just give a few words.
I mean, I say that I am a disciple of the bowls. They are my masters, and they are my ticket. They've taken me all over to France, to Mexico, to so many hypnosis conferences, and I'm known as, oh, he's that guy that does those strange sounds at the hypnosis conferences. But people love it. People love it, and I'm always very so complimented and honored when someone like Dick Sutphin, who is a superstar in the world of hypnosis and past life regression, and Dick Sutphin would come to my singing bowl and he'd say, Peter, nothing puts me out as quickly as your bowls. I'm like, wow, coming from you, that's a huge compliment. So it's my pleasure to be able to bring these sounds because they're very special to me and their effect on health and consciousness. And, just thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. If you could just maybe send us your contact details. You put it in the last slide. So we will again communicate.
I put in the chat my website.
Yeah. So people can contact Peter directly, or if you're not able to get those details, you can contact IACT India and we'll direct you to him. Dr. Sunil, maybe we can just wind off with a few words from yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. It was lovely talking to you. And definitely, we look forward to invite you and see you in India. We are planning a retreat somewhere in the first week of October. Let's see if you can make it.
Well,
and do something good in the
like my Muslim friends would say, inshallah. Inshallah.
We will have a retreat in the midst of Himalayas, and yes, a good time. In case I will be meeting you there in Hypno Expo in May, we'll discuss further,
Okay.
It was really interesting for you to be here and accept our invitation. So we convey our gratitude and thanks once again for giving such a nice talk and connecting sound with hypnotherapy. Basically, yes, you rightly said, sound is nothing but a communication.
Yes.
And the verbal, the non-verbal communication is a part of sound. And that goes 62%. Verbal communication is always 38%.
Yeah.
So sound verbal communication is the most soothing and accepted communication by the body cells.
I believe it.
And that's where, we all are into music, in different type of musics. Every culture has got their own music because that is sound.
Yes.
And we need to understand that.
Yes.
Right then, thank you very much.
Okay.
For being with us. Namaste.
Namaste.
And remember the Gayatri mantra.
I'm going to go over it with you when I see you. Make sure I have it pronounced correctly.
Sure, yes.
Right? Okay.
Right, we'll do that.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much for being
Thank you.
And
thank you
thank all the participants who are there today. And those who are not there, maybe due to some reason, or they have missed something very great in this session. Okay, thank you. Namaste. Good night. Shabba khair to everybody.